Shalom, Kol Halal, Yahweh Bashim Shai, Bahashem Rakak Radash. Double honors unto the apostles and the elders. Salutations to all my fellow laborers doing this work in truth and sincerity, risking their lives and their freedom to do so now more so than ever. To the scattered elect that are scattered around the four corners of the earth, that be like unto the speckled bird, the Israelite foreigners. And to the Akwaf that are listening and learning, to you I say Shalom. This is your brother Malcolm from the branch of the Great Millstone here in Chicago, coming at you with another lesson. And today we're going to go into some history, and we're going to start with the book From Babylon to Timbuktu by Rudolph R. Windsor. Okay, so I'm going to go to page 18, which is chapter 2, and it's called, and it reads, The Origin of the White Race. All right, and we know that there's no such thing as white people. So I believe that I'm going to name this particular video to set the record straight. All right, because I don't know if Rudolph R. Windsor, he was a great historian, and he did a great work with this book. And this book has contributed a lot to the truth. It really has, because of the archaeological evidence and proofs that he does bring. But there's a confusion in this book, and it's information like this which leads a lot of unlearned people to believe that Japhet is the so-called white man, or that there are two sets of white people. All right, because among the Jewish or the people who follow Judaism and that whole sort of thing, you have Jewish people pointing at their finger at Edomite Christians, referring to them as the Edomites, and then you have the Edomite Christians, especially those of the white power type groups, the KKK, Aryan, white superiority garbage. They point the fingers at the fake Jews and say that they're the Edomites, when in fact, according to their scholars, who is Esau, Edom, they indeed, all so-called white people, are of outside of the ones who are speckled birds. Speckled birds meaning that they're of another seed, or more so that they're Israelite because their lineage goes back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and that's a fact that a lot of Israelites do not want to come to grips with. That among the Edomites there are a lot of Israelites. Just like among Israel, there are a lot of Edomite tares, because Edom laid his seed among Jacob. The whole parable of the wheat and the tares explains that, in the Holy Scriptures. Yahweh explains that himself. All right, but let's read what he has written in this book. Let me see if I can get this to raise up a little bit and read it through the lens. And it's kind of hard to see because of the glare, so Salakia. There it goes. It says, the origin of the white race, Shemites, Hamites, and Japhites, and not Caucasoid, Mongoloid, or Negroid. The latter category is a modern anthropological classification that we will deal with more thoroughly later. So basically, the whole Caucasoid, Mongoloid, and Negroid was Esau's attempt to attach his pseudoscience. Let's grab that. Let's get that scripture. I believe that's 1st or 2nd Timothy 6 and 20. So let's go get it. First Timothy, 6 and 20. And it reads, O Timothy, keep that which is committed to thy trust, avoiding profane and vain babblings and oppositions of science falsely so called. So they use a false pseudoscience, a false science which is connected to white superiority. And they've taught that in their universities and their schools for hundreds of years now. That came about in the late 1600s and really flourished in the 1700s. When they came up with that category white in 1681, and what happened in Virginia and you could check out the research of Dr. Jacqueline Badalora, Dr. Robin DeAngelo, and the historian Theodore Allen to go further into that information. But that's pretty much factual information for anyone who wants to try and argue it. It's documented now that that it was in Virginia in 1681 when that label white got placed upon a group of humanity, which is the Edomites. So they hid behind that title white, and they've been hiding behind it ever since. And it goes to show you that they're still following that pseudoscience and that lie today with their job applications and their race classifications that they use unto this day. All right, but then let's go down to here. It says, the third classification of mankind was the Japhites, from Japheth, whose youngest son, Noah, the offspring of Japheth, occupied the isles of the Gentiles, the shore territories of the Mediterranean Sea in Europe, parts of Asia Minor, whence they dispersed northward, the entire continent of Europe, and a great part of Asia. And that is so true. But what they don't talk about or consider to this day is the fact that Esau, Edom, took that over, and you can get that account in the first Maccabees. First Maccabee, the first chapter. And let's get that. It says, First Maccabee 1:1, and it happened that after Alexander, the son of Philip the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Kittim, had smitten Darius, the king of the Persians and the Medes, who were brown-skinned people, by the way. Japhet was, or is, they're still here. Had smitten Darius and the kings of Persia and the Medes, so you know they were brown-skinned, that he reigned in his stead the first over Greece. So in his stead, his race. So, and Alexander can be traced back to the Amalekites. And the Amalekites are indeed the sons of Edom, the grandson of Edom, and the chief house of Edom to this day. And the reason you know that they're still around is because the Lord said, Yahweh said he would have war with Amalek from generation to generation. All right? Let's see if we can find that. Oops. Salakia. I'm operating with one hand and I can barely see because of the glare. There's a glare on my app, Salakia. Now I have to move it. There we go. Okay, there. This is Exodus 17 and 16. It says, for he said, because Yahweh hath sworn that Yahweh will have war with Amalek from generation to generation. And then, you know, you got the scripture in Ecclesiastes that said there is no end to none of the people. So Amalek is still here. And the earth was given into the hand of the wicked, so they're still ruling. All right, so let's go a little bit further. Here on page 20, it reads, the ancient people did not classify races according to skin color, like modern nations of Europe and America. The ancients, including the Greeks and Romans, identified people according to their national or tribal names. They used names as Visigoths, Vandals, Saxons, Ethiopians, Carthaginians, Jews, Arabs, Persians, Babylonians, and Ethiopians. And all those are, and so that would be misinformation because all those races that he just named have biblical names. All right? And so they weren't using it. They started reclassifying people. And yeah, this color thing came along later on. That part is true. But people were still using their biblical names. But you got, matter of fact, let's grab a scripture just to substantiate what I'm saying. how every time Esau got into power, he would change the names. You know how it says he hijacks people's their land, their heritage, etc. What we're looking for, Psalms. (49) and 11. All right, and it reads, their inward thoughts is that their houses shall continue forever, and their dwelling places to all generations. They call their lands after their own names. So this is what Esau, Edom did. They read the Ethiopians were not called Ethiopians. That was a name put upon them by the Greeks when the Greeks got control. All right, it said Egyptians and Moors. All right, when you look up that word Moor, that word Moor, the word Jew, and the word Moreno all meant the same thing, a dark-complected person. All right, and we know the Moors were so-called Negroes. All right, they did not use the term Negro, which is a modern term to refer to black races, or the word Caucasian to refer to the white races, dividing the world along color line, and was an idea that originated with the white supremacists in Europe after the Renaissance. The Europeans did not have any great civilization immediately after the fall of Greece and Rome. That's true. They didn't. They because they hijacked, they lost. That was the Renaissance was all about, the rebuilding. All right, and to rebuild the name of Esau. All right. Malachi says that they would rebuild the desolate places, but then Yahweh said he would throw down. All right, and Salaki, I'm battling with this little ass spider who keep get your little butt away, keep messing with me. I think he's trying to get at that bug under the glass, but he can't figure out that he's on the other side of the glass. But we're going to do a little bit into the book of who's Esau, Edom. All right, which we've gone into this book before, and this book gets people's pages shut down and cut off. That's for sure. But I'm going to talk about the part of and read it through the right. This is exactly what I wanted on page 7. And I'll read it through the lens so you can read along with me. He says, Edomites were driven into the old territory of Judah. The Maccabean family, a remnant of the true Judites, you notice it didn't say Judaism or Jews, had ruled Judea from 166 to 37 BC, and under Judas Maccabees, 1 Maccabees 5 and 3, recaptured the city of Hebron from the Edomites in 164. During the time, John Hyrcanus, 135 and 105 BC, nephew of Judas, the Judites were again faced with the hostility of the Idumeans, which is a Greek way of saying of Edom. Hyrcanus confronted the Edomites, causing a decisive change in relations between the two factions. John Hyrcanus and the whole of Edom and undertook the forced conversion of the inhabitants to Judaism. All right, and that's in the Josephus Antiquities 8, chapter 8, 9, and 1. Thenceforth, the Edomites became a section of the Jewish people. So no, they've never became a section of the Jewish people, because that's a made-up term. All right, the Judites was only represents one of the 12 tribes. You can't call Benjamite a Judite. You can't call Ephraimite a Judite, or Issacharite a Judite. So that's a very incorrect thing. All right, this is why we come against that word. All right, but the point being is that, you know, there was a forced conversion, and this is the reason why, you know, you have people running around today saying that they're Jewish. These are Edomites today that are running around referring to themselves as the Jewish. Point blank, period. Let's go into a little bit more proof about what he said about, about, you know, who the Europeans were and who they weren't. The fact that the true Europeans were Japhetic. And then after the fall of Rome, when the Pale Edomites lost control over Europe and over Rome and all those parts, the Israelites took over. And I'm going to read this page here, and maybe just a couple of the things on this page. You know, I don't really need to go through this book, but this is the book, the Negro Question, Part 4, The Missing Link, by Lee Cummings, and it's showing you the Irish and the Britons, you know, who they really were, the Scots, before the Edomites took them over. And they do have the history of Oliver Cromwell and his brother, and how they were killing and driving out the real Israelites out of Ireland, Scotland, and Spain. As a matter of fact, I'm looking at the image of rastaliveair.com. That's where you can find this. But it's just the son of King Charles I, and whose nickname was Black Boy. All right. I don't know of any so-called white man, and I've seen the statues of him too, how they chipped off the noses and the lips, how wide his nose was, and how thick his lips was. All right. But it reads, the son of King Charles I, and whose nickname was Black Boy. He was the king of England, Wales, France, Scotland, Hibernia, Spain, and Ireland. All right. And there you go, man. And then Oliver Cromwell was, matter of fact, here's a picture when they're showing you the beheading of Charles. All right. Image of Scottish King Charles I from Patrick Little Oliver Cromwell in perspective. The beheading of Charles I from the Solemn Lineage Covenant. So, you know, you can see those images right there. Those were clearly so-called black people, and they beheaded Charles, man. All right. And this is why I love these old books and these books like this, because they give you references of other books and where information comes from. Both those books on the table do that as well. It says, I suggest you read one of these two books to get a better feel for what happened to the Irish, Scots, and Brits during the terror of Oliver Cromwell. All right. And I even got some scriptures there. Oh, yeah. Matter of fact, let's get one of those. Let's get that Isaiah 25:7. Because then all of a sudden, you know, you have these Edomites running around today calling themselves Irish and Brits and Scottish and all that. And they're not. They're Edomites, man. That was Isaiah 25:7. And it reads, and he will destroy in this mountain the face of the covering cast over all people, and the veil that is spread over all nations. So the Lord, you know, Yahweh through his men, the men of the Lord, through the power of Yahweh by Shema Shai, have you know, brought that information out, man. That veil has been removed through the mouth of his prophets, man, revealing this information. Because you can go and look this stuff up. What we're saying is absolutely true and correct. All right? Absolutely true and correct, man. Hey, the scripture said that, matter of fact, let's grab Lamentation 4:8. All right. One of my favorite scriptures, because it's point blank period, man. It says their visage, meaning when you look at them, their visage, when you're looking at them, is blacker than a coal. They are not known in the streets. So people don't know the so-called Negro as a Jew, you know. And this is referring to the southern kingdom. As a matter of fact, this is referring to all Israel at this time, because at this time, all Israel was together. The northern kingdom, I don't believe it had been separated yet. I think that happened later. You know, that happened in the book of no, I could be wrong. That happened in, yeah, the northern kingdom was gone already. No. This was when, no, I take that back. This was when, actually, I just have to go back and read it. I don't want to misquote. Because I'm thinking of the Songs of Solomon, but I'm thinking that Solomon wrote Lamentation as well. But nevertheless, you know, the Judah, Benjamin, and Levi were clearly the darker of the tribes today. So this is speaking about, you know, them. All right, it says, their visage is blacker than a coal. They are not known in the streets. Their skin cleaveth to their bones. It is withered. It has become like a stick. So this is giving you a physical description of the Israelites. And it's kind of looking like what you're looking at on the cover of this book. All right. And these images are still around, man. How can you explain and argue with these images? Why would these images be in and throughout Europe? if they weren't, true. These are the images that are found. That's a Moor right there, man. All right, these are the images that are found throughout Europe still and to this day, man. Explain that. All right, let's go a little bit into that book. And this is one of my favorite pages. It's all marked up, but I'm going to read it anyway. And I'm going to start at the top of this, right here at this page. I'm just going to read some of the evidences that they just want to ignore, like it didn't exist, It says, Professor Boyd Dawkins, our earliest ancestors' bygone days, is giving you the name of the book and the place. A lecture delivered in a public hall, Collyhurst, Manchester, 1/8/1879. All right, so in 1879, he gave this, and this is what he said. The ancient Britons, Irish, Scots are short black people, pages 103, 107. All right, Dr. Thurman, the Nature Journal of Science, page 92. From the evidence at hand, it seems that the Iberian black occupied the whole Western Europe at one time. You see what I'm saying? All right. Professor Huxley, 1870, the Iberian race, page 332. The Iberian Basque, meaning their bodies, black bones have been found all over Europe with his animals. All right. I have inserted the writings of the 8 English white historians to show that our white brothers who were closer to the epic center did not have a problem telling the truth about the original inhabitants of Europe. These Welshmen, Briton, Irishmen, Frenchmen, Russians, German, Italian, Swedes were in Europe thousands of years before the English arrived in 449 AD. And basically those dark people that were there before were Japhetic, all right? Because just because you're dark don't make you the same race. Remember, Japhet was a dark race too. All right, so it was probably a mixture of the two. Esau just took it over during the time of the Greeks and the Romans. When they took down Greece and Rome, they just assumed that title, that nationality. And this will be proven by the writings of Professor Boyd Dawkins, professor of geology at Manchester University, London. Professor Boyd Dawkins was invited to speak in public hall at Manchester, London, January 18th, 1879. All right, let's look at a few more. Let's look on this page here. It says, Professor Winchell Alexander, our remote ancestry, 1815 to 1900, collection of journals. So in his collection of journals, these short black men came from Atlantis, northern Africa, and they overran Europe, and they were known as Britons. Roman historian Tacitus, the origin of the black Britons. The Iberians are black people with curly hair. Anthropological Review, Society, Volume 8. I use Tacitus a lot because he just wrote it like he saw it. Because why? Because you weren't determined by color back then. All right? If you were dark flesh, but your father was an Edomite, you still was known as an Edomite and accepted as an Edomite. There wasn't a problem with it. All right, in order for white superiority to work, they pushed these lies and came up with that Negroid, Caucasoid, and Mongoloid, which was some made-up racist bullshit that they created in order to hide who they were. Joseph Ridston, The Annals of Caledonian Picts and Scots, Volume 2, pages 7 and 27. The Picts are brown complected with curly hair. All right, and then, of course, you got Ivan Sertima, and I have that book inside. But yeah, Ivan Sertima, Africa, Presence in Early Europe, pages 225. Britons look like the Ethiopians. So, hey, that's enough, man. That is enough. So with that, I hope this was a edifying lesson, an eye-opening lesson. Call Halal Yahweh Bashim Abishai, Bashim Rakakwadash, Wa Abba Babal.